Welcome to this new automotive news video for Thursday, April 9th, 2026. Today, we're going to talk about Denza, a Chinese brand that belongs to the BYD group. They are launching their very first high-end model in Europe, a vehicle designed to take on Porsche and Audi on their own turf. And you'll see, given the performance and price of this car, that the German brands have a lot to worry about. We'll talk about Stellantis and their 1.5 BlueHDi engine because, believe it or not, there's yet another recall for a reliability issue concerning it. We'll also talk about Honda, which is almost entirely abandoning its electric car projects. We'll also talk about the first details we've learned today about the new model from Cupra, the Raval. And then, I've saved a little story for you, a pretty funny topic, let's put it that way, for the end of this video. It involves a French brand that's caught up in a legal case where the French government is said to have been complicit in fraud. You'll see. It's quite ridiculous. I hope you find these video topics interesting. If so, please show your support for my channel, as always, for free. You can do that by leaving a like on this video, subscribing for the next ones, boosting this one if the option appears for you, and of course, leaving a comment where you share your thoughts on today's news. And actually, we're going to start with a big topic. We're going to talk about German cars, because Porsche and Audi are now directly threatened by the brand Denza. It's the high-end brand from BYD. Until now, it was absent from Europe. We knew it was going to arrive, and today it just revealed the prices and performance of its first model available on the European market. It's a vehicle that comes to compete with the Porsche Taycan, for example, the Porsche Panamera, or even the older Audi A7, with one small difference. Denza is taking full advantage of China's technological superiority when it comes to electric cars. This allows it to offer a vehicle that is both much higher performing than a Porsche Taycan, for example, with much more range, much faster charging times, and all of this sold at a lower price. That's not its only selling point, since Denza also promotes the onboard features. For example, the 17-inch central screen, a 17.3-inch screen for infotainment, two additional 13-inch screens for the passenger and the driver, which notably display the speedometer, two additional screens in the doors that replace traditional side mirrors with cameras, as well as a 50-inch augmented reality head-up display. So, on board, it's ultra-technologically advanced. And as for the powertrain, you have to see what it offers, because there's a 100% electric version that delivers a total combined power of 1,156 horsepower, powered by a 122 kWh battery. Its range is close to 700 kilometers on the WLTP cycle. Even more impressive is the ultra-fast charging system, which can reach a peak power of 1,500 kilobars. So, just a little clarification on this topic. In Europe, there isn't any charging station that allows for 1,500 kilobars. Maybe it will happen one day, but I think the maximum you can get in France right now is 600 kilobars. As for the Porsche Taycan, which is probably its main European rival, to get something similar and still not quite as good, you have to go for the Turbo GT versions, which produce 1,034 horsepower. That's a bit less than the Denza 550 kilometer range. That's less than the Denza. And a peak charging speed of 320 kilobars. That's 45 times less than what the Denza offers. All that for a price that's twice as high because a Taycan in this Turbo GT version costs around 240,000 bucks. And even over at Audi, which is a bit cheaper, you have the RS version of the Audi e-tron GT, which is based on the same technical platform as the Taycan. You still have to shell out 140,000 euros, that's 30,000 more than the Denza, for numbers that are pretty similar to those of the Taycan. The good news is that this Denza Z9 also comes in a non-electric version, a plug-in hybrid version, which in this case has absolutely nothing fancy about it. Because while Porsche or Audi make plug-in hybrids based on V6 or V8 engines, here it's a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, paired with 3 electric motors and a 63 kWh battery, with a total power output of 767 horsepower and an electric-only range that exceeds 200 kilometers. And for this plug-in hybrid version, you'll have to pay $101,000. And in this case, the competitive advantage is a bit less strong. You can find plug-in hybrid Porsches or Audis that offer about the same features at roughly similar prices. Of course, we're going to talk about Stellantis today because, believe it or not, there's a new recall concerning the 1.5L BlueHDi. I'll display the list of affected models during editing, but just know that it involves models from Citroën, DS, Fiat, Opel, and Peugeot. The issue this time is related to the engine's timing system. Specifically, the water pump pulley is not properly secured and could move while the vehicle is running. If that happens, it can cause the timing belt to become misaligned. According to Peugeot, if it starts to shift slightly, it can cause a loss of power. But if the misalignment is greater, it could lead to a total breakdown of the vehicle or even engine failure. By the way, a pretty incredible detail about this recall is that it wasn't organized for fun by Stellantis, even though they're trying to regain their customers' trust. It's a mandatory recall, because due to this poor fastening, some parts of the water pump could fall through the engine compartment and simply drop onto the ground from the vehicle. And as soon as parts can fall onto the road, it becomes a safety issue and the recall becomes mandatory. To fix the problem, Stellantis plans to replace the water pump kit on all affected vehicles. It's an operation that takes about 2.5 hours and fortunately will be fully covered by the manufacturer. On a completely different topic, let's talk about Cupra, which has just unveiled its new small city car. It's called the Raval. I think the name is very poorly chosen, but, well, to each their own. What's quite interesting with this Raval is that it's based on the same technical platform as the upcoming Volkswagen ID Polo. By revealing the Raval, Cupra also offers a glimpse of the future Polo. It's an electric city car, and it will be Cupra's new entry-level model, adopting their design codes, with an exterior that looks heavily customized straight from the factory, featuring sporty bumpers, triangular light signatures, and copper accents that you find on other Cupra models. Inside, the sporty vibe continues, with optional bucket seats available on some versions. A 12.9-inch central screen is accompanied by a 10.2-inch digital cluster for the instruments. When it comes to the powertrain and the price, that's really the most important part. There's the base Raval with a 37 kW LFP battery, offering a claimed range of 300 kilometers. The Raval Plus has the same battery, so about the same range, but with a power output of 135 horsepower. The Raval Endurance has 211 horsepower and NMC, 52 kilowatt battery, probably more expensive, with a range of 450 kilometers. And the VZ has 226 horsepower and also a 52 kW battery. The DC charging power will range from 50 to 105 kilodollars depending on the version you choose, allowing the small 37 kW battery to go from 10 to 80% charge in 23 minutes. So I don't want to be the typical anti-EV guy, but we're still talking about a vehicle that's going to be sold for 26,000 euros. And personally, I don't understand how anyone can agree to spend 26,000 euros on a car with such a low range. Unless you absolutely want to drive a vehicle from Cupra, I don't get how the Volkswagen Group can set those prices for that range. It's 2,000 euros more than an electric R5, which supposedly offers similar or better performance. It's 26,000 euros for a car that makes long trips almost impossible. I'm especially looking forward to seeing what Volkswagen has to offer next with its ID Polo. It's going to be very hard to justify prices over 25,000 euros when with a Polo from the 90s, you could easily go over 600 kilometers or even much more with the diesel versions. I also wanted to talk to you about Honda, which is more or less abandoning all its electric car projects. This is mainly due to what's happening to the brand in China, one of its main markets, where sales went from 1.6 million units in 2020 to 640,000 in 2025. Sales have fallen to a third of what they were in 5 years, and factories are running at only 50% of their capacity. Honda also expects its sales in China to drop even further in 2026, probably to less than 600,000 units. And the head of the brand explains that it's simply impossible for most traditional manufacturers to compete with Chinese engineering when it comes to electric cars. That's the main reason why Honda is abandoning a series of electric cars and preparing for losses that could reach $16 billion in 2026, because it's completely changing its core program to redirect toward hybrid and combustion engines, types of powertrains where, unlike electric, there is still hope. Unlike the electric market where, according to Honda's CEO, the Chinese are going to take absolutely everything. To finish, let's talk about the funny story, if we can call it that, of the day. This is about the French car brand Forest Automobiles. It's not well known because it went bankrupt and only sold a few dozen cars. The customers are furious because they find themselves completely unable to register their cars, and therefore, they can't drive them legally. What's happening is that Forest Automobiles sold vehicles that simply didn't meet the emission standards, especially the Euro standards. Even though they were launched in 2022, these cars used Peugeot 4-cylinder engines from the TU family, a family of engines that Peugeot actually abandoned because of certification difficulties in the early 2000s more than 15 years ago. At first, the French government didn't realize there were problems, had approved the registration of these cars. This gave confidence to other customers who eventually placed orders with Forest Automobiles, before the government finally changed its mind and blocked the registration of the other vehicles. Actually, it goes even further, because the French administration is even considering revoking some registrations that were unjustly granted. The buyers formed a group to seek a legal solution to their problems and are now negotiating with the government to try to find an amicable solution before starting legal proceedings against the government itself. Because even though Forest Automobiles has some responsibility in this matter, the French government as well, at least according to the group, which believes that through its incompetence and amateurism, the French administration became complicit in a scam. They blame them for not properly checking approval certificates, For the group, there are two possible outcomes. The first option is to consider this vehicle as an Euro 3 vehicle and for the government to accept its registration once it has passed a valid technical inspection, by precisely meeting the criteria of the Euro 3 standard, especially for exhaust pollutant emissions. Or a more radical option is for the government to directly reimburse each buyer about 20,000 euros, and the vehicles would be destroyed. A solution that could end up costing the government more. We'll see what happens. That's all for today's news. I hope you enjoyed the videos, and as always, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like and subscribing for future videos. And why not also become a supporter by clicking the join button? I'll see you tomorrow for the next video.